the momentum just shifted as soon as he came on. There's a very different feel about United's attack. Kind of a new dynamic added by him.
Jay here for Stretford Paddock. This is the Academy Review. Joining me as always is Finn, otherwise known on X as Academy Scoop. How are we doing, brother?
Very well, thank you.
Yeah?
How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. This is one of my favourite parts of the week when we get to forget what is going on at Manchester United with the first team and look towards the future. Definitely. And it's usually good news when I chat to you. You've usually got some positive news, some positive results, players that we can look at and get excited about, rather than having to deal with the underwhelming results that we might have had with the first team. We're going to kick off with the under-21s. I think you want to start there. What can you tell us about what they've been up to?
Yeah, so it is usually good news. Results-wise this week, not so strong. But there's always positives to take. That's, I think, the beauty of academy football is there's always something positive to take away, and the stakes are lower. It's easier on the brain, isn't it?
Yeah, yes.
It's less stressful. So yeah, the 21s, they started on Tuesday at the Peninsula Stadium, Salford Stadium, because I believe Leigh Sports Village wasn't available. Yeah,
I know it's like it just always reminds me of the fact we haven't got our own academy stadium. It's just ridiculous. But
it is ridiculous. No, that's okay. It was a bit of a weird one, to be honest. Quite a quiet game. Just 2 goals in it. United started really strong on the front foot. Ethan Wheatley, within the first minute, was kind of one-on-one, but it hit the post. Yeah, he collected off a loose ball from one of the defenders trying to play out the back, and hit the post. A few minutes later, Dan Gore plays him through, and he pulls that wide as well. But it was a strong start, and it looked like United would continue that way and keep up the chance creation and hopefully bag a few goals. But yeah, within about 10 minutes or so, I think Hertha, it was against, I didn't mention, Hertha Berlin in the Premier League International Cup. And yeah, they found their footing after about 10 minutes and settled into a bit of a mid-block. And they were quite defensively rigid, quite well drilled, and they were quite intense in their press, and it was quite difficult throughout that first half for United to really find any solutions to it. A difficult first half, and yeah, it was 0-0 at half time. Not much to write home about, to be honest. Dan Gore looked bright in the midfield. He was alongside Jace Fitzgerald. It's nice to see him come up from the under-18s and get a chance starting for the 21s. He's a midfielder with a lot of quality, so they looked bright in the middle. But yeah, not many solutions in that first half.
Okay, reminds me of the first team a little bit there, doesn't it, with the Aston Villa game. Just on Ethan Wheatley, what do you make of what's happening with him at the minute? Because he's a player that we know from his sort of forays into the first team and obviously what he's done in the academy. I'm quite interested to see what you make of him and where you think he can make that step up. I know we've spoken about him in the past, but just sort of the more you see of him, what you're thinking.
I think he's still in that kind of limbo stage where he's maybe not quite ready to contribute for the first team, or at least the competition means that he's not going to get that chance with Højlund and Xerxes ahead of him. So I think maybe in January he could look for a loan, if he feels and if the club feels that he's ready for that. I personally think that he'd benefit from one quite a lot. But yeah, he's at the level now with under-21 football where it's not really challenging him. He scored a hat-trick last week against Norwich. And he's looking very comfortable, very confident. So I would give him the challenge of a well-placed loan. It's important that it's the right loan because, with United, I think we're historically quite poor at selecting good loans for people. I remember Maxi Oyedele last season went to Forest Green Rovers and he started, I think, the first 2 games, and then Troy Deeney got the sack. And for the rest of the season he didn't get a minute. So I think when they're agreeing loan deals, there needs to be some sort of security in assurances around minutes played and things like that. But yeah, I would say Wheatley's one of those ones where he's ready to take that step up. Maybe not quite in United's first team yet, but yeah, maybe a League 2, League 1 side. Spend the rest of the season there and see what he's about against senior pros.
Yeah, I'd like to see a little bit more of him, and like you say, I'd like to see him at that sort of level where he's against senior pros, and it's not just for the under-21s, because I know obviously the under-21s is a tough test, but I don't want to give up on him
as well. Yeah, he's 6'4", 6'5". Yeah. He's a giant on the pitch, so give him that chance against men and see what he's about.
Definitely. Second half against Hertha Berlin, how did they get on?
Yeah, I think United grew into it a little bit. It was still a pretty timid game, to be honest. There weren't many chances at either end. I think Hertha were utilising their width a lot, creating a lot of overloads in the wide areas, which was difficult for United's fullbacks to deal with, but luckily we kind of held them at bay for the most part. They did have a few shots on goal, but nothing troubling enough to go past Grazic. I think we're pronouncing it like that. The new goalkeeper from Arsenal, Hubert Grazic. He did actually have to make a double save at one point, which was pretty impressive. But yeah, for the most part, we held them at bay. And in the second half, Zach Baumann came on as a substitute, and within about 10 minutes, he was linking up with Wheatley on the edge of the box, and he was put through on goal, puts United ahead. And yeah, it looked good from that point. It looked like we were going to hold on to the lead, and it all came crashing down in the 93rd minute.
Oh, it's tough to take that, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a really nothing penalty that was awarded. Tyler Fletcher was deemed to have fouled one of the Hertha players, but I couldn't see anything in it from where I was sitting, and I'm not sure people in the stands could.
Well, I didn't see it, but I know for a fact it wasn't a penalty.
For a fact, absolutely, 100%. And yeah, put it away, and it ended 1-1. That was kind of the end of things. It was quite funny. Hertha had a huddle of German ultras that were occupying one corner of the stand. I don't know if they'd travelled from Germany for this game or if they were, just there conveniently, but they were definitely making their presence known. A boisterous lot, I think. It's quite funny. They erupted at the end.
Really?
Yeah. It was
that could have gone a bit pear-shaped. A lot of German ultras in the middle of Salford.
I know. Well,
doesn't always end well.
They were trying to start some battles at the end with the stewards. Yeah. Fair play to them if they've travelled all that way. Might as well get their money's worth, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know about kicking off with stewards at an under-21s match, but like you say, fair play. I think fill your time somehow.
They were probably the most entertaining part of the game, just because it was hard for United's players to get anything out of it. Dan Gore looked fantastic in the middle as he usually does, and it's good to see him back from injury because he spent a long time out. I think before the last couple of weeks he hadn't played since January,
right?
Because he was loaned out to Port Vale. And I think it was his shoulder that he dislocated, needed surgery on that, and he's only just come back. But instantly, you can see the qualities there with him, and he's kind of head and shoulders above the rest. And he's had tastes of first team football, and he's one that, as he comes back to fitness, I think he's another that will get loaned out, or could even be in with a chance in the first team if the opportunity presents itself. We saw he was on the bench against Porto, so it'll be interesting to see what we decide with him, because I think he could be good enough for minutes at the moment. It's looking that way with how he's performing. I
think I mentioned this on one of the other podcasts we did, that he's one of the players that's been working with Ryan Hopper as well at RH Elite Coaching, obviously, who's coached Marcus Rashford and Fred and Bruno and Delo and Anthony Elanga. He works with a lot of the top tier players who obviously, when they come to him, they want to work with him. And Dan Gore is one that I know from speaking to Hopper, who's been on the channel many times. He's been very impressed with the lad, and I've not seen a lot of him like you have, but whenever I've seen him, he looks like he's the real deal. He truly does.
He's not that big physically, but he's one of those really kind of intelligent, technical midfielders who can just keep it ticking, keep the tempo going for United. And towards the second half, he was really starting to cause some problems. He finally kind of grew into the game. I think he was substituted at the 60th minute or something like that, just to maintain his fitness levels, because obviously he has spent such a long time out. But it'll be really interesting to see what happens with him, because performance levels, he's there. Ready for a challenge, I think.
Definitely looking forward to seeing more of Dan Gore and some of the other youngsters you've mentioned as well. Is it the under-18s next?
Yeah.
How did they get on?
Yeah, Saturday morning. It was a weird one, another weird one.
Okay.
Not a great
United at the minute, isn't it?
Well, not usually with the under-18s.
No,
We're used to them kind of just beating everyone that they go to. Yeah, they travelled down to London, Tottenham's training ground. They were in the PL Under-18 Cup, which United won last season, so they're defending that trophy. And yeah, just an off start, to be honest. Within 5 minutes, Tottenham's striker Ellis Lehane is put through and puts Tottenham 1-0 up. And United just hadn't woken up at all, I think. Right. It was strange because we're usually so defensively compact and solid. That's been one of the strengths of this side this season. I think they've conceded 1 in 5 games in the league, so it definitely came as a shock. And I think inside 26 minutes they'd added 2 more through Williams-Barnett, and went into half time 3-0 down, which is a position that I don't think they've been in for 2 years really. So definitely, ask some questions of them at half time to see, can you show some fight? Can you show some character to come back? Because they're never usually in that position. They're usually always on the front foot, always ahead. And it was weird. So some of the goals came, against the flow of play. And United weren't all bad. They were still kind of their usual positive selves in possession, but couldn't really find that cutting edge that Spurs were showing. And Spurs were very clinical. Almost everything they tried came off. It's just one of those days where we didn't really turn up, at least in the first half, that is. So half-time, 3-0, not what you want.
No, it isn't what you want. That does sort of seem reminiscent of some of the games we've seen for the first team. Yeah. How did the second half go? Did United get back into the game?
Yeah, so it was almost a pretty incredible comeback.
Right.
It did start by going another goal down.
They like a challenge, don't they?
Yeah, they do. I think they're just bored. So they were just making it interesting for themselves.
Give them a 4-goal start, so we'll see what they can do.
Yeah, make it fair.
Yeah.
So Williams-Barnett scored a hat-trick. He looks like quite a promising player for Spurs. I haven't seen much of him, but quite a tidy technical winger playing off the left, and scored some pretty impressive goals. So maybe one to keep an eye out for.
Yeah.
But there was one moment that completely turned the game on its head around the 60th minute, and that was the introduction of Shea Lacey off the bench. The momentum just shifted as soon as he came on. There's a very different feel about United's attack, kind of a new dynamic added by him. Because Bendito Mantato, who's someone I rate really highly, I think he struggled to get the better of Spurs' defence. And I think Lacey is quite a different profile to him. So it's not a knock at Mantato, because he's very capable, but Lacey came in and just changed that dynamic on the right hand side, and within 10 minutes he'd scored 2 goals, set up Biancheri to win a penalty, and I think it was around the 86th minute we were 4-3. Well, we got 3 goals back, so it was 4-3, and it looked like there was a chance that we'd be able to pull the game back and at least get a point out of it. But yeah, with Lacey, everything he was trying came off. Every take on, every pass. Spurs just looked panicked when he got on the ball, because he's one of those players that can just make things happen. He's very creative and innovative, and when he's on the ball, you just get the feeling that something special is going to happen. So it was a complete game changer, his introduction, as well as, to be fair, Ibrahimov and Jim Thwaites, who came on I think at the same time or maybe just before, and they added a bit of energy to the midfield as well. I think Ibrahimov assisted Lacey's first goal, which was a nice cut in from the right, slotted into the near post. Just changed the game, and it was almost there. They almost did it. Almost.
Frustrating there for the youngsters. Let's talk about Shea Lacey. You spoke about him last week. We've heard a lot about this youngster from yourself, from other people who follow the academy. And whilst you always do get a lot of the younger players who are hyped up, for want of a better expression, this kid seems to get a lot more attention than others. Yeah. Do you think that's warranted? Do you think that he is someone who, he said something special? Do you think he has what it takes to maybe be a player for Manchester United in the future? Yeah,
I think it is warranted. I think he's been one that's, we've heard about his name for years now, from even before he was in the under-18s. I think he was someone that was kind of talked about quite early. As soon as he was promoted into the 18s, he kind of just hit the ground running, and it was instantly quite clear that he was, one of the group's stronger players and someone that could have that potential to go on and become a first-team player. it's been a difficult past year or so for him because the injuries have hit quite hard. He was out for, I think, the last 5 months with a quad tear. I think it might have recurred at some point, so that's, I think, been difficult for him. But yeah, I think the focus now is on making sure that he can stay fit and produce those consistent performances, because when he turns up, he's really got something special about him. Just that creative mind. You don't often see playmakers who have exceptional vision or pass selection at this age. It's usually quite raw, but with him, he can seem to kind of always make that right decision in the final third. Just a wand of a left foot as well. So yeah, I don't want to overhype him too much, but I don't think that's too much of a worry with him, because I think everyone that watches can see that ability-wise, that ability isn't going to be the reason he doesn't make it if it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
So yeah, just fingers crossed that he can stay fit and kick on, because he's a joy to watch, to be honest. Really exciting player.
Do you know where he's from, Shea Lacey?
He's Scouse. Oh, he's Scouse.
He was doing so well.
Yeah.
It was all going so well.
Yeah.
Saying that though,
to be a United
Wayne
fan from
Rooney,
a Scouse family, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? He did all right, didn't he, for United? So
he did okay.
It's not all doom and gloom. Yeah. And he's a United fan as well, from a Scouse fan. Where I bet that was interesting growing up.
Well, yeah, his brother Paddy, who's a professional boxer, he's spoken publicly about trying to convince Shea to become a Liverpool fan, and supposedly he hates them. He's always said no, and I think he's a true United fan.
Do you know what? The more you tell me about him, actually, the more I like him.
Yeah.
We will be keeping an eye on Shea Lacey.
Yeah.
You'll be giving us regular updates onto his progress, and hopefully, like you say, he can stay injury-free, he can keep doing what he does best, and have a good trajectory towards that first team as well, because he's the kind of player, as you've mentioned, that the fans love to watch. And a Manchester United player. When you talk about Manchester United players, it's that kind of player, isn't it?
That's the kind of exciting player you want to see playing on the wings, playing in the attacking positions. Someone that makes something happen out of nothing and comes up with the goods when they're needed. So yeah,
good stuff. Is it back to the 21s?
Back to the 21s.
Yeah.
Leigh Sports Village was available this time.
Back to our old stomping ground.
Yeah.
Yes.
The luxury stands of It's not great, is it?
It's just. I know I'm a broken record here, and I know you spoke about yourself in it. Just someone who has been to Leigh Sports Village many times, and I've made that trip. Yeah. It is a little bit ridiculous that a club the size of Manchester United, it prides itself on our academy, and rightly so. You go back to the Busby Babes and onwards, that we don't have.
Yeah. And to have to go that far out of the city to watch the academy.
If anyone who's watching who doesn't know, Leigh isn't right next to Manchester. It's
a solid half hour.
Yeah, it's a bit of a move.
Yeah.
It's sort of it's near. It's Greater Manchester, but it's not that close.
Yeah.
So it is a bit of a move, and it's a bit ridiculous that United haven't sorted that out way before now. But who knows? Maybe Ineos.
Hopefully that changes.
We'll do something about it. That can be added to their list of things they're going to fix. What went down with the under-21s in Leigh then?
Yeah, so they were hosting Liverpool in the PL2. Always a big game. Yeah. Obviously that fierce rivalry, so it's going to be an interesting battle.
Because we do see that, don't we, with the under-21s, the under-18s at academy or under-21s level.
Yeah, I think it goes all the way down.
United, Liverpool. Yeah. It's kicked off a few times. We've seen it. Definitely. I remember from many years ago when I started watching the academy, you used to see it quite a lot.
I think this fixture specifically really gets a bit fiery at times. So yeah, it's always an interesting one. And it was an unfortunate result. It was a 1-0 loss on the occasion, but it was a decent turnout at Leigh. I think over 1,000 people turned up on an early Sunday kickoff, so always good to see. But yeah, it kind of had a similar feel to the Hertha game earlier in the week, where United just lacked that kind of cutting edge. The overall performance was fine, and especially in the midfield, I think that was the kind of hot topic of the game, because we had Collier and Dan Gore, who are two players kind of almost seen as on the cusp of first team players. Yeah. Also Jack Fletcher playing ahead of them, who gets talked about a lot. And Liverpool had Trey Naoni, I think you pronounce it, who's another one for them who's quite highly rated, and I think in and around that first team setup. I think throughout the 90, I think you'd say that United dominated that battle, especially with the physicality of Core and Collier. They've got that kind of robustness and combative nature that allows them to win that battle. So they kept Noni quite quiet, to be honest, and that's not a slight on him, because I think it's quite clear that he's a high quality player, and looks like he might be one to kick on for Liverpool and get involved in the first team. So yeah, they did a good job of keeping him quiet. But yeah, United just lacked that cutting edge. Ethan Williams, I'd say, was probably our brightest attacker on the left side. There was a few times where he'd dribble past his man and get a shot off. But yeah, just didn't have that breakthrough in them, it would seem.
Frustrating, but hopefully they'll be able to get revenge sooner rather than later. Yeah, it is a little bit disappointing. Never nice losing to Liverpool, is it?
No, and the goal was cheap, to be honest. I felt bad. So Dermot Mee, our goalkeeper, who I think has been really impressive actually in the past few weeks, especially with his kind of distribution and ball playing, he's looked really strong. But on this occasion, he gifted it to one of Liverpool's midfielders, Tyler Morton, trying to play out from the back. Just, I guess, a lapse of concentration. And he saved his first effort, but there was nothing he could do about the second. And that was that, to be honest. I felt bad for him because he'd looked quite solid up until then. But yeah. Yeah,
it's always a bit sort of deflating it when you see these youngsters make a mistake, because it happens to anyone. It happens to senior players, it happens to anyone. You just don't want them to rattle them, and I'm sure, like you say,
I'm sure he'll be okay.
He's a great player, and hopefully he'll just be able to shrug that off. And like you said, he saved the first one. Unfortunately, couldn't save the second one. I wanted to talk to you before we wrap up about Chido Obi-Martin. He's announced it on social media. Yeah. He's officially a Manchester United player.
He is indeed.
A player you've been tracking, and you broke the story when it became obvious that he was going to join United, or it seemed like he was going to join United, and now it's done. We've spoke about him quite a few times, and you must be sort of excited and giddy to see him in action.
Yeah, I think so. I think we'll probably have to obviously wait until international break's over to see him in action, but yeah, just great to get that one across the line. Like we've said before, there was a lot of competition for his signature, so I think it's quite a statement signing from United, and it looks like he's boyhood red actually. Pictures came out on his social media of him in a United top, so yeah, just great to see it done across the line, and now we can kind of get started with life in Manchester.
Don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but it'll be interesting to see what happens in terms of the first team, because you mentioned that you could see him being third choice behind the likes of Xerxes and Højlund.
There was talk about him kind of coming into that third choice position, so it will be interesting to see what happens. I think it'd probably do him some good to start him off with the 21s, maybe even the under 18s, just to allow him to bed in a little bit. I think the club are quite conscious of not getting too ahead of themselves with him, although he is obviously very highly rated, it goes without saying. But yeah, I think it would do him some good just to give him some time, allow him to settle in, but obviously very exciting for the long-term future.
You just never know with some youngsters as well.
That's the thing. It's impossible to tell, isn't it?
I always go back to that point of you remember Marcus Rashford against Midtjylland. Andy Martial gets injured in the warm-up. Yeah. And I remember I used to chat to a few people about Marcus, and they were unsure of him. Yeah. It wasn't a given. They weren't like, me and you earlier were talking about Mason Greenwood, where everyone expected Mason Greenwood to make the step up into the first team when he was a youngster. Obviously, we know what happened there. But with Marcus, people were a bit like, he's a good player,
kind of the top of his group.
I don't know if he's quite ready or if he's got what it takes to be. Yeah. And obviously, he got that opportunity.
Sometimes that's all it takes. So an injury that leaves a gap in the squad, and took it with both hands.
He did. Yeah. We'll keep an eye on him. I look forward to more updates from you, Finn. Always great chatting to you. Yep. Not all the results we wanted, but some exciting points anyway.
There's always positives.
There is always positives. Yeah. Well said. If you're not doing already, go and check out Finn on social media, Academy Scoop. He's always covering the under-21s and the under-18. He's always got his eye on what's going on in terms of the movers and shakers when it comes to some of the United youngsters. So go and check him out. You know where to find me as well. Make sure you are hitting like, share and subscribe. That's been Finn. I've been Jay. This has been Academy Review. Thanks for watching.